Alright, where I last left off, I had just finished converting Megan's 3rd gen 3000 GT over to the 1st gen, which is the pop-up headlights. When we bought the car, it was originally a 99 and it had this style front end on it. And she always wanted the pop-up headlights, and I just happened to need this front end for my car, so we did a swap. Originally mine had pop-up headlights and hers didn't, so if anyone is interested in how to do the full conversion from 2nd and 3rd gen over to the 1st gen and have it wired up to the factory computer, go check that video out. It's pretty detailed and step-by-step on how to wire everything up like it was from the factory. So everything functions just like it's supposed to. Turn the headlights on, hit pop. Also the button right here makes them work, and even wired up this old button over here, the ECS button that's not being used, for little sleepy eye mod. So that way you can raise them up just part way to get that nice little sleek look. Maki, Nori, and Kobe. Hi Maki. I actually have a photo over here of when we first got it. There you go. So yep, it used to look like that, but then we turned it into that. But if you've ever wanted to do the sleepy eye mod or convert your front end over to pop-up headlights, go check that video out. It's actually fairly easy to do. You just need to make sure you get all the parts from like a junkyard car, and you can easily knock it out in a weekend. So the plan for today is I'm going to attempt to cut the fenders on this car. I'm going to cut a little bit out the front. I'm going to cut a lot more out the rear. Originally I was going to have the body shop cut the fenders out, but I figured, hey, it might actually be fun to try it myself. And I mean, worst case scenario, if I mess it up, then I'm sure they can fix whatever I mess up, so it shouldn't be that bad, right? I have cutting tools, welder, and a tub of seam sealer. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but we will cross that bridge when I get there. And the horde of engine parts have gotten a little bit bigger. One of the boxes we just got in is this little guy. Ooh-wee. We'll get to that later. The fronts are not that bad. I would say it's probably 30 millimeters or so. If I hit a hard enough bump, it might rub. I haven't rubbed the fronts yet, but if I'm clearancing the back, I might as well just go ahead and clearance the fronts just a little bit. I would say maybe 25 millimeters or so should give me all that I need. But the problem there is the back. That's maybe 10 or 15 millimeters. And it does occasionally rub with hitting, speed bumps or anything else. The other problem I'm running into is those fender flares. I can't tuck the tires low enough to take the gap out. So, yep, it is about time to cut that fenders. I've been limping that as long as I can, but you know what? I'm going to try to do it, and it should be fun. One thing I will need to address is this wiring harness. It runs from here and around to the front. There's one on either side. But I need to tuck that up so that way we don't accidentally rub it once the car goes lower. I'm going to relocate the fuse box inside of the car at some point to help clear up some space under the hood. And in doing so, I'm going to tuck up the harnesses that run under each fender. And over here is the new fuse box and harness that I am currently using to make that relocation harness kit for this. So once that is done being built, that's coming out and it's getting swapped in. It's going to help eliminate a lot of the electronics under here that is not going to be used anymore. So that way I can eliminate as much of this extra wire and plugs, harnesses, and everything that's not needed under here. Find somebody local who can do dry ice blasting. It is messy under here, but in good news, there's no signs of any rubbing going on so far, so that's a plus. Alright, I taped off the area so I can doodle on it with a Sharpie, so I'm thinking about maybe 38 mils or so high, and then it can taper off as it gets closer to the edge, and that should give me plenty of clearance to, let's say if I ever decide to bag this, to be able to set that wheel up as high as I can. And once I cut that out, I'll just mirror it to the other side. I quickly made up this little jig, this wire jig. So there's 2 points where the underbody plastic's mounted to. So that'll be the same on this fender and that fender. So this quick little jig just locks into place on those little holes right here on either side. And that's a fairly clean equal arch. Now to cut it out. And I'm going to use a pneumatic saw to cut this out. And always, before you cut, just run your hand back there. Make sure there's no wires or anything you're going to cut into. Save yourself some headache for later. Voila! Bigger hole now. One nice big wheel arch down. One more to go. Just gotta copy everything over on this side and we should be good. And then we tackle the rears.
I just want to show this little jig that I made again on the driver's side. So it locks into the same spots as the passenger side. I can hold tension with this line, lock in my pin feed, and as you can see I already got the line on there, but it's simply just, you just put it on, And when you hold the piece that was cut off the passenger side, you can see it is pretty spot on and symmetrical to the other side. All right, it's been a couple days since I got to work on the car due to scheduling at work, but that fender is done. I'm just going to finish cutting up the other front fender, and then we are going to move on to cutting and welding the back fender. Basically what we started with and now we ended with. All right, that should be plenty of extra wheel gap that I need to lower this down even further. I have my template marked. I have dual airline set up. So pneumatic reciprocating saw and pneumatic cutoff wheel. We're going to start by right here. This is where the inner layer and the outer layer are joined together. So by using the cutoff wheel, I'm going to score right in here. And this is a good time to definitely wear your safety glasses. I'm going to cut this outer skin into little strips so that's easier to fold up. I'm not going to cut it but so far back. I don't want to cut it deep in here because I will have to then weld and seal all that up on the inside, because rocks, dirt, water, everything that's going around your wheel well is then going to get inside your car, and you don't want that. So I'm only going to go to about where it'll meet this metal down, and I'll just make a bunch of marks going across. What I need to do now is get this outer metal up a little bit higher so it gets close to this line. And I can achieve that with a combination of this air hammer with a smoothing bit on it and these balled hammers. Basically, I'm going to slowly tap it up, and it's going to massage the metal upwards gradually across back and forth. But I'm going to start out with the air hammer and then tidy it up with the, I guess you call them, the manual hammers. This part definitely takes the longest to do, but if you want to try to close the gap between the two layers, just slowly, like I said, massage the metal upwards, and you'll eventually get these two layers right here as close as you can to them. And then you can fold the tabs up, cut them, and weld them shut. All right, it's probably been about 30 minutes of hammering, and I've significantly closed the gap that was between here. I mean, it was probably, oh, I don't know, about 38, 40 millimeters in thickness. All right, mission successful. I would say that is well within the gap tolerance I was looking for. Remember, we started about this far down. We slowly hammered it up. Do that all the way across. Now, what a lot of people do is once they fold it up like this, they'll go ahead and weld that around. But what I'm going to do different is I'm going to put a rivet in each one of these to hold it in place. But then once they're all up, I will then tuck them under. Like that. And what this is a Coleco. It's a temporary rivet, so you can put them in, take them out. It's easy as that. All right, all of the Colecos are now on, and they are holding the two panels together temporarily. All I have to do now is to just take each one of these tabs and then flip it to the inside all the way around, so it gives a nice seamless look to it. say one thing, and that's I'm not a professional welder in any way, so I'm probably going to skip some steps or forget some steps that you would normally do when you weld your fenders up. And most of my knowledge on how to weld has come from the internet, so take that with a grain of salt. Either way, I'm going to have fun, and if the welds look ugly, well, that's what they make grinders for, right? And one last thing before I get started, I did disconnect the car's battery, and I also have an extinguisher nearby. Just be mindful when you're welding on this, because whatever's on the other side of this, like on the inside of the car, can get really hot. If you have wires, carpeting, plastics, any of that, it can catch fire. The last thing you want is your car to catch fire in your garage. So, happy welding. Okay, I've laid a row of tack welds all the way around, so I should be able to remove the clecos now and then go in and slowly tack this up. I don't want to overheat it too much because it'll start to warp the metal since it's so thin, and I don't want to blow through the metal either. So I have my my amps turned really low, and I'm just going little bits at a time welding this up, and so far it's coming along great. Alright, second round of tacks have been hit. I've allowed the metal to cool down some, and now I'm going to go through and fill in all of these little pinholes from where the clecos were sitting. Go ahead and get that filled in, and then we should be good to just finish up welding the rest of this and put on the seam sealer. Well, it's not the prettiest looking welds ever, but hey, as I said, nothing a grinder couldn't take care of. And for my first time TIG welding on a car, or really TIG welding in general, it's not bad. I can live with it. So yeah, all this I need to do now is just put a little seam sealer on it, and it should be good to go. So I have a brush on seam sealer for the exterior, and on the parts on the inside that I can't really reach too well, I'm going to use an aerosol spray on protective coating, and that will just kind of keep everything that's exposed metal from getting moisture and rust and everything else. And this thing should be ready to take out on the road. So I'm going to be using a brushable seam sealer from Eastwood. I've never used it before, so hopefully it works pretty good. Might need a slightly more aggressive brush. All right, not bad. I'm gonna let it cure, and we'll come back and look at it in about 30 minutes to an hour. All right, the seam sealer says it's paintable within an hour. I went ahead and left it overnight to make sure it's fully cured, but this is what we are left with. It's a nice, clean, I mean, it's a little ugly since it's brush on, but I mean, you're not going to see it once you put the over fender on anyway. But this way, we now have much higher arches. It's completely sealed. It's been welded up, and all the exposed metal is now covered. This seam sealer is paintable, so that will be good. So when the car goes to get painted,
it'll get painted over top and it'll just kind of blend in with everything else. But all we need to do now is get this rim fitted back up and see how much more clearance we got so we can now lower this car even more. All right, that is a huge difference. It's what we started with. It's what we have now. That should allow me to lower the car probably another good 50 mils comfortably. Same with the front. Working with quite a bit of extra allowance in lowering the fronts. All I have to do now is just finish the other side, and this is done. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward into that. And with some internet magic, the driver's side is now complete as well. So that means all 4 fenders are completely done. And we should be good to go with putting all the body panels back on. But one thing I'm going to do off camera before I put these over fenders on is they have this little lip. It's probably about 25 mils that stick out on the bottom facing the tire. I've already shaved it off on this one. So basically, once I lower the car, if that lip is there, it's going to make contact with the tire. But now with the lip cut off, I can actually lower it over the tire a little bit without it hitting it. So that way, if I do end up going to a bag setup, they'll tuck just fine. Looks like it's going to be another long night in the garage doing body work. But that's half the fun of owning a project car. So thanks for watching. Peace.